Hi guys, this is the Book Geek here, and I'm back again with yet another video. I'm way behind in my videos and book reviews, and so this is just me catching up. So today I'm going to be showing you guys my August wrap-up and my September wrap-up. And I don't know if you can hear it, but my tummy is growling, so I'm going to try and make this video short. So, for the month of August, I read a few books. I read one book, and then I read a couple of tales out of some of my fairy tale books and a couple of graphic novels. So, the first one I'm going to talk to you about, let's see. I read volume 3 of The Walking Dead, Safety Behind Bars, during the month of August. And, you know, The Walking Dead is a worldwide phenomenon, and everybody knows about it, so I'm not even going to talk about this. But I do want to say that the comic version of this part of the story versus the TV version of this part of the story, which takes place at the prison, this part inside the comic was so gruesome. It was much more gory. Is that a word? It was much more gruesome than the TV version. I mean, the TV version was that prison. The prison scenes were pretty fucking awesome. But it's just something about seeing it on paper and some of the things that they cut out of the comic. Some of the things they cut out of the show, things that they didn't add from the comic, where I got to see though. You know, those parts, and they were pretty good and pretty gruesome. I'm really enjoying it so far. I've been a fan of The Walking Dead for many years now, and I can't wait to get caught up to where the comics are now and to where even the TV show is at now. I'm just on volume 3, so I'll make it there. And a goal of mine is to also read the Walking Dead novels as well. But yes, so I read volume 3, Safety Behind Bars. I also read this graphic novel. It's called Archive: The Warhood Odyssey. And Tyler Kirkman, I believe. Dylan Andrews and Tyler Kirkman are involved with the writing and illustrations of this graphic novel. I picked this one up at Comic-Con this past summer. And after I finished reading it, I actually messaged the author of this to ask where is the second volume at, because I'm interested to find out what's going to happen. So anyway, basically what this story was about is we have this guy, and he has this hood on, and everybody is after this hood. So there's like people hunting them, and he's traveling with this woman. Oh my god, I can't remember what her freaking name is. I can't remember what her name is, but I think she is a mute. I don't think she talks. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I was interested in it. I could tell that there is some development that needs to be made. I could tell that this is someone who is new to the comic game, or maybe new to writing. But I'm hoping that volume 2 has some real developments. I mean, this was pretty great, but there was moments in it when I was like, where the story just didn't flow. Like the pacing of it, I don't know how to describe it. The pacing was good. I don't want to say the pacing, but there was moments that maybe could have been added or cut out to make the story more, I don't know, more easily to follow. There were times where just the flow, the direction in which the story was going, I was like, huh, wait, what? How did we get here? But other than that, it was an awesome story. I really loved the illustrations. And I'm hoping I can find volume 2. I haven't been able to find it yet. But I would be interested in continuing to read this one. It's dark, just like the type of things I like to read. So that was that one. And then I also read Thumbelina from The Little Mermaid and Other Fairy Tales book here. And I didn't take any notes when I was reading it. And I read a children's version of Thumbelina years ago when I was a little girl. And don't remember the story then. And to be honest, it wasn't very memorable now. So, I mean, it's Thumbelina. She's a little tiny little little thing. And she, all I remember is that she went from place to place. I can't remember anything special about it, any special details about it. But it wasn't memorable to me like some fairy tales are. And I also read, let me see if I can find it real quick. I read a story out of Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. And isn't this just lovely? I love the cover of this book. But let's see, which story was it? Oh, I think it was Our Lady's Child. Third story in the book, I believe. And I actually really liked this one. I really enjoyed this one. Basically, the woman, let me see, oh my God, who was it? The Virgin Mary? The Virgin Mary, I believe, came to her and kept asking her this question, and she about something that she did, and she kept lying about it. And I think every time she lied, she took her children away from her. Am I remembering this correctly? Yes. She kept taking her children away from her, and you know, finally, she ended up telling the truth. But I just thought that, you know, the queen would have swallowed her pride and told the truth a long time ago to save her children's lives. That she would have made that sacrifice, because that is what mothers do. We don't want to see our children hurt, and they become our whole world. But it took her, she was so much pride. She had so much pride. And it took her a long time before she finally owned up to the truth. And I thought that was interesting because, you know, pride is a good thing to have, but sometimes it can have a negative impact on our lives. If we have too much pride. I don't know if I'm making sense right now, but in the end she did repent, and she did confess. And I think the Virgin Mary, the Virgin Mary descended with the two little sons by her side and the newborn daughter in her arms. He who repents his sin and acknowledges it is forgiven. Very interesting. And so, you know, if you are a religious person, then you can see how that story might be impactful. And also for the month of August, I read The Secret Life of Bees. I gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was a really good book. I think it's a book that every woman and young woman should read. Young girls should read this book as well. But, I mean, I took so many notes on this book. This was the first book ever that I've written in. I was reading it and just found so many things interesting about it that I just got a pencil and started underlining things that I wanted to go back to. So we have this young girl named Lily. She's a white girl, and she has a black, I guess Rosaline is her nanny. She looks after her in the home. And this is set in the South in the 1960s. So if you're familiar with that era, that time period, you know that racial tension was very high during the 1960s. And so we have Lily, who basically, well, her mother is dead, and she feels responsible for her mother's death. And her father is very emotionally, and he's just abusive to her and doesn't treat her very well. And Lily is a girl who's basically she doesn't have a family. She's like searching for her place. So the way the whole story unfolds, the way she ends up at the beekeeper's house, because she ends up later on running away to another part of the Carolinas in search of some truth about her mother. And that whole thing unfolds because her and Rosaline was going to vote. And they get stopped along the road by some racist pricks. And they say some things to them and approach them. And Rosaline doesn't stop talking. She ends up confronting these guys. And it ends up turning very badly for her. And her and Lily get thrown into jail. Of course, Lily is let go. Her father comes and she's just free to go. And Rosaline is left there to get beat on. So anyway, Lily goes and rescues Rosaline. She finds out she's at the hospital. She breaks her out of the hospital. And they run away to the beekeeper's home. And I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Tiburon, South Carolina? I'm saying that wrong. But they end up running away to these beekeepers' home. And she ends up finding everything in these women who happen to be black women, colored women. She ends up finding everything in these women that she couldn't find at home. Every sense of a family that she was ever longing for, searching for, she ends up finding there with all these women. So this young girl who didn't have a mom, she ends up having several mothers, several mother figures to look after her. I thought it was a wonderful story. I'm just looking here on my notes because I wrote a lot of stuff down about this book to see if there's anything else I wanted to discuss. I'm going to go into more detail about this story in my review, so I don't want to take up too much time talking about it here, but I think that's all I'm going to do because I want to save it all for my review. I do think this is a book that everyone should read, but most especially every woman and, like I said, young girl should pick this book up. It's so much girl power in this book and female empowerment. It's a 5-star read, definitely, for sure. So that is it for the month of August. In September, I read 2 books, and both of these books were also 5-star reads for me as well. I read Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This was such a twisted novel. I never wanted to put this book down. It kept me on the edge of my seat. And like I said about The Secret Life of Bees, I'm going to go into more details about it in my review. But I think the scariest part about this book is that it's something that could really happen and something that does happen in real life, and these are the scariest stories to me. I like to read horror books, and you know, there are books about monsters and creatures, but the ones that are truly terrifying are the ones about people. Not real life people, because this is a fiction book, but portrayals of real life people doing crazy things. Because you know that these things are real possibilities. So, I mean, it's just, I must say that I'm going to say this. I do admire Grace, who is one of the main characters in this book, who's being terrorized. I admire her fight to survive and to never give up. She never gave up. Yeah, Jack is her husband, and he is a truly terrifying person. He is a monster. I would recommend this book. I gave it 5 stars. Like I said, it was really good. I read it in no time. And also, I read Their Eyes Were Watching God. Like you see, I have tons of notes in here because whenever I'm reading a book that I really, really like, I end up taking a lot of notes. And I also underlined a ton of stuff in this book. And I picked this book up at a time when I was... well, let me say this. In this book, there are a lot of, there's a lot of description and portrayals about how women are mistreated. There's a lot of sexism in this book. And I picked this book up right on time. Because at the time when I picked this book up, I was dealing with a friend, a guy friend of mine, who, the things he said about women wasn't new to me. But at the time, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I had got all this stuff off my chest about it. And then I picked this book up and I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of him and the debates and discussions and arguments we've had about his ideas on women. He's very sexist and doesn't even realize it. Like, he says things like, it's a woman's job to cook and clean. And just disgusting things. And it got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And so when I picked up this book, it was a constant reminder during the entire reading process. But also, you know, a huge eye-opener on things that are still relevant in our society today versus when this book was written. So, I mean, I could go on and on about this book. I want to save it for my review because I don't want to make this video too long. But did I say I gave this one 5 stars? I gave it 5 stars. And this is another one that I think every woman should read, especially every black woman. There are some things in here about like racism within the culture. So we have, in this story, we have scenes with light-skinned black women that don't like dark-skinned black women. So that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. And I'm going to further discuss this, like I said, in my review. But it hits some major topics, some important messages were delivered in this writing. And it's just, it's a book everybody should read. It was fantastic. It was a really good book. So that's all I'm going to say about these books. I want to save it for my review and my written reviews because I get into more detail and I'm not always saying and just so you guys know, my videos are unedited, so I'm never going to be cutting out my thinking process, because you know, when people are saying and that's a normal way that people speak. You know, things that normal people do. My videos are not going to be flawless. So I want to know, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to show you guys before I wrap this video up. I got the August wrap up, September wrap up. I'm going to do my September book haul in another video. Oh, I want to show you guys, I'll wait to the next video. I have some bookmarks and some new buttons that I want to show you guys. So I'm going to show you in the next video. So leave me a comment. Ask me any questions. I like to talk about books. Let's talk about it. And I'm going to link down below my Goodreads and book blog and all my other information where you can find me. All right. Thanks, guys. Till next time. Bye.